everybody, and welcome back to our apartment. Today, we're going to be discussing why we threw away our lives in Washington, D.C., and instead built new ones here in Munich. So as I said in the quick intro, today we're going to be talking about kind of the why we live in Munich. Why did we leave America? Why did we come to Germany? Why did we choose Munich? We're answering all the whys. And honestly, I never really thought any of you guys would be remotely interested in this. But we've gotten some really good reception on the other couch video. So I figured, you know what? What's a better question to answer than why? That can help you get to know us, because apparently you want to know. And we're going to follow this up quickly. We're going to shoot right after this. It'll be out in just a couple days. We're going to be doing the how we built a life in Munich. So today's why, like and subscribe, and watch next time for the how. Anyway, let's get started. And I think really the, why on earth did you do this? I think you should start because you were an American. It was your home. Why did you abandon it?
Yeah, so I think at the time we had been living in Washington, D.C. for 7 years together.
Was it really 7?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
You're so bad at time.
I'm so bad at time.
You just guess. You're just oh yeah, 4 years.
I was going to say 5.5.
You just have to count once, and then you never forget it. 7 years. We were in DC. We were in DC for 7 years. So I'm an American citizen, and I had only ever lived in the United States. And at the time, 2018, I had been teaching for 3 years, and I was kind of ready for something different. I thought that I wanted to switch school districts, but the more I thought about it, the more I talked with you, we kind of realized that we wanted a bigger change. We liked DC, but we wanted to move on and move somewhere else. And at the time, I kind of thought that was because I grew up in a military family.
There's so many cats today. Meow to you too.
Well, now you have to move your foot. Oh no.
Sorry.
So I grew up in a military family, so I kind of assumed that moving around a lot made it so that I got bored in wherever I was quite quickly. So I kind of assumed that was what was happening. Right. So I was like, hey, let's move to a different city for my 4th year of teaching. Yeah. And you were traveling a lot. Yep. So I was like, hey, could you maybe next time you travel for business, just scope out a city, do a low-key vibe check. Right? Maybe you have to go to Boston. Maybe we'll be interested in living there. Austin, Atlanta. And how did you feel about these kinds of places? Yeah,
so it was really interesting because I would kind of go on these scouting missions and I'd go through the neighborhoods and all the grocery stores and stuff and think could I live here? And then I'd report back to you and I'd say, well, this is kind of how I thought about it. This is what the scene was like from what I could tell. This is what it was like to work there. And we kept coming up with the same conclusion, right? Which was that they weren't different enough. Those cities are lovely, Boston, Atlanta, Austin, all that. They are wonderful, but to throw everything away, it didn't feel like enough. You know what I mean? Why would you bother if you're going to end up kind of in the same place? And that's what you kept saying to me, and I really vibed with that.
I started to think that, hey, maybe we'd want to move internationally. And the more I thought about it, the more I really realized I wanted to do this. I was thinking a little dramatically, and I was like, if I die having never lived in another country, I'm going to really regret it. I'm going to be very sad. It was very dramatic. It was kind of like a midlife crisis sort of thing. So I think we both agreed that that would be a really cool thing to do. Yeah. And we should probably do it when we were having that conversation, right? Because we were both 27 and doing things like that only becomes more difficult. So we kind of decided, okay, we're gonna, for the upcoming school year, you're gonna finish the school year, and before the new school year starts, we're going to move abroad.
Yep.
Yeah. And at the time, I think that, so it was 2018, if anybody was on YouTube then, the tech nomad.
Oh yeah, and minimalism.
Yeah, those videos were really big. So I think we thought we were going to do something like that, but less extremes.
Yeah.
So instead of living in Bali for 2 months and then, going to the Philippines for 2 more months, we're we'll live somewhere for 2 years and then move somewhere else for 2 years and do this for a little while until we settle down when we're old.
And it wasn't until very recently that that's still how we perceived ourselves. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the pandemic that changed that, but that's honestly for a different video.
Yeah, definitely. So I really wanted to move to Europe, specifically Germany, because I had taken German in school and my Oma's from Germany, so I had a tiny bit of a basis there. But you wanted to move to Japan.
Yeah, I still do. I still really do. I was watching a ton of the YouTube channel Abroad in Japan. He's huge. He's wonderful. He's one of my actually, honestly, major inspiration for why we have a channel. Yeah, I'm not afraid of it. He's great.
He's cool. It's like my favorite YouTube channel. But that leads to the question, why did you want to move? Because it was different than mine.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, a big part of you wanting to move was all about wanting to, like you said, live in another country before you died. Very dramatic, but honestly, very accurate. I couldn't feel like that, of course, because I was living in another country. I was a foreigner in America, right? So as a British person, I'd grown up in England for about 12 years, and eventually I would stay in America for 13. So I'm not sure if I'd ever been really happy in the United States. I never felt integrated or really part of the culture, which might sound whack, but that's really how it felt for me on the inside. When I moved to the United States, I was pretty depressed. The childhood that I had in England compared to the childhood I had in America were just different ball games, mate. They were just completely different. And so it was really difficult. Ultimately, though, I did build a really good life with you in Washington, D.C. I was really happy. I don't want to say I was depressed in D.C. I wasn't. I really loved it. I had great friends, a great job. I mean, a great girlfriend at the time, and we were really, really enjoying it. And I could have stayed there, but kind of like you, there was this fear of stagnation. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of what happened to me, is that we were kind of doing the same old for, and we were really enjoying it, but it was all starting to be a bit repetitive. And so I kind of hit this point where it was like, you should dig deeper, become an American citizen, be able to vote, get a house, really dive, put your claws in, and try to integrate properly all the way into American culture, or leave. And I think that's also one of the things, it's really cheesy, but it's one of the things I really love about our relationship, is that you'll notice our calculations were completely different, but ultimately our values are the same, and so we come to very similar conclusions. And it's just so fascinating hearing how you drew them. I think I learned a lot through that, so it's really cool. But yeah, so we come to the same conclusion, and I realized that, especially when the question of do you want to become an American, do you really want to dive deep into that, I just couldn't do it. And I know some people really might not like that, but 2016 was a rough year for America. I'm not an American, and it's in many ways it didn't feel like my fight. I never felt integrated or fully accepted. I always felt othered. So a part of me was like, well, I'm not an American citizen, I can just leave. So I had the paperwork and I'd filled them in, and I just never sent it. Instead, choosing not to dig deep, but instead leave and see if there was somewhere that would fit a bit more with my values. And that's something that was a big deal for me at the time, and I think it is a big deal for you now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
And so I think that brings us to the same point. We're now at this kind of same wavelength. I woke up one morning, because I'm also just as dramatic as you, if not more, and I said, I've been thinking about if you die. Said if you died, you'd be unhappy if you didn't live anywhere else. And I think if you died, I would just leave. I'd stick for the funeral, but then I'd leave. And then you turned to me and you were like, well, that's convenient, because I don't want to stay here either. And that brings us to the time to leave. And you already discussed Germany. Mm-hmm. Do you want to go into why we chose Germany over Japan? Because that's one vote for each. That's a stalemate. How did we decide?
Yeah, so really, again, it was timing. Again, 2016 was a rough year for more than just Americans. Obviously, Brexit happened, and at the time we were concerned, but I think we were feeling very hopeful, surely this won't happen. This is so controversial. But as 2018 kind of kept going, we realized that Brexit indeed was going to happen. And as we were planning to move abroad, Brexit happening would mean Ben, the British citizen, would lose his, what is it called? Right
to roam, my EU citizenship.
Mm-hmm. His EU citizenship. So when you are in the EU, you are essentially, in some ways, a citizen of all of the countries that are in the EU. So you can just roll up and you have the right to live and work. That is your visa. Your EU membership is your visa to live in that country.
Yeah, you could think of it like that.
If we wanted to live in Europe, it was going to be significantly more difficult to live in Europe after Brexit had happened, right?
We'd have to come in as normal people who have no ties to the EU, because you do not have the right to live and work in whatever country you want, right? Yeah. But as an EU citizen, you do.
If we came in after Brexit, we would have to get visas based on work or study, all the normal things that people get visas on. So that really sort of forced us to decide to go to Europe. And as I said earlier, I had a little bit of a basis in German, so obviously Germany was a really good, was a really easy choice. Right, it has a really good tech hub.
I mean, I would sum up kind of your reasoning for that, and I think it was kind of you who pushed that decision in that way. Just pragmatism. You said, let's not think about who wants it more or any of that weird stuff. It's easiest to go to Germany now, and that won't be true in the future, whereas going and staying in Japan is going to be the same, whether we do it now, whether we do it in 10 years. Same thing with kind of your language basis and also the tech economy. I was a contractor, and you never know, if there's a global pandemic and all the contracts dry up, you might need to find another job. And you called that, so, I mean, you didn't say there was going to be a pandemic, but you did say we should hedge our bets and go somewhere where you could find another job really easily. Whereas if we had moved and, to like a Mediterranean island or something like that and just stayed there, that might not have been so easy. So you were completely on the money.
Yeah, definitely.
And so that's why we chose Germany. That's how we wanted to leave. Why on earth did we choose Munich?
So it kind of happened by accident, honestly. So when we when we decided we wanted to move to Germany, we're like, okay, we'll go visit a few cities that we're really interested in a couple months before we are officially moving. So for some reason, we got it in our heads that we were really going to vibe with Cologne.
Yeah.
And I don't know why.
You're like obsessed with that city for like a month.
Yeah, Cologne's a really nice city, but I don't really know why we were obsessed with it. And I think ultimately what we realized is that we need somewhere with a lot of outdoor activities to do. And I know that's pretty easy to come by in Germany in general, but nothing really compares to like living in the Alps. It's just so outdoorsy. So we did this big tour of Germany. We went to Cologne, Frankfurt, Düsseldorf, Berlin, Leipzig, and Dresden. They were all nice cities, but I don't know if we were, especially Berlin, and they were all really nice cities, but we weren't super enthusiastic about willingly leaving the United States to move to these cities. So we were kind of in panic mode, and if it hadn't been for the fact that I had already gotten my A2 certificate in German and spent so much time learning and studying, we probably would have looked for somewhere else to move, maybe Amsterdam.
Yeah, the Netherlands is a huge one. France could have been a good one. But yeah, we were like really on the mindset of Germany, even though we had gone through a lot of the cities and we liked them, but we didn't love them because they're always missing something. No offense to all of the other German cities, but Frankfurt felt a bit too corporate. Cologne felt a bit too small. Berlin is an amazing city, though I do think it might eat me up and swallow me alive. But also in terms of what you can do outside the city, Berlin really gave me New York City vibes, in that the city's amazing and it's hard to get out. You kind of, it's like a vortex and it pulls you in. And that's not how we like to live in cities.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Which essentially then brings us to the point of like, well, why on earth did you then choose Munich? You've explained why you didn't choose anything else. Do you want me to do that one? He's not going to eat the plants. He just wants to sneeze.
No, he's going to. Okay. Truffles, I'm sorry. You have to go on the floor now. Go on the floor. Goodbye. No!
Oh, that really upset Princess.
Oh, no!
Princess!
Sorry. What was that? So that explains why we didn't go anywhere else in Germany, but it doesn't explain why we went to Munich.
Right, exactly. So while we were living in Crete, we spent about 5 weeks there. You got your English teaching certificate, and I was just checking off a bucket list item. I'd always wanted to live on a Mediterranean island and just subsist on wine and oil the whole time, which I totally did, and it was awesome. But while we were there, over one of those nights of oil and wine, we were looking at the map, as I'm wont to do, and I kind of forced you to look at the maps with me. Because I think you can learn a lot by geography, right? Like geography determines your destiny in so many ways. And so I was just staring at the geography of Germany, and I was looking at the Alps, and I was like, we never went down there. That'll be surely the Alps, right? It's got to be amazing for outdoors stuff. There's tons of lakes, and there's Munich. And it's at this crossroads, right? It's close to Czechia, it's close to Austria, it's close to Switzerland and Italy, and also the rest of Germany. It's so central to so many places. Even if that city sucks and we don't like it, or we think it's fine, we could still travel and go to so many different places and go to a lot of good content for our YouTube channel, right? And so we were thinking about that. It's a good place to hedge your bets. We'd heard it was really nice, and that's what we did. We just left the Mediterranean island and landed right at the Munich Flughafen. I had never seen a picture of Munich before. I had no idea what it would look like. I just knew, based off of the geography, you're gonna have built something good there. I just had to trust that instinct and really roll the dice on it. And what hit us first?
The cold.
The cold. Going from the Mediterranean island to Munich, we went in November. Don't do that. And what was the first thing we ever did? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, we bought thermal underwear. Because it was so cold.
The very first thing we did, and that moves us towards the how did you build a life, but a sneak peek is the first thing we ever did.
That's step one.
That's step one, buy thermal underwear. Because as the Germans say, there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad equipment. So step one, we needed to upgrade our...
No, I've heard there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad preparation, which is even meaner.
That is even meaner.
Yeah, it's like a moralization of like how badly you did. So that was our why we moved to Germany. That's part one. Part two is going to be how we got settled in Germany once we were here. So if you're interested in that, please like, comment, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, and please, we mostly do travel videos, and those are the things we really like doing. So, you know, check some of those out too. We just went to Seceda, went to the Dolomites. It was super cool.
Some of the best videos we've ever created that nobody's ever watched. So if you want to change that, check them out. But other than that, we'll see you in the next video where we waddle through red tape and get through German bureaucracy to set up a new life.
Bye.
We'll see you then.